Hi everybody, welcome back to ArdelleVision, where it is my hope to inspire you to capture the vision of your life. If you are new here, hi, welcome. Please remember to subscribe to my channel and to click that gray bell to be notified the moment I upload another video every Wednesday and on Sundays on all things ADHD, mental well-being, and personal development. Today we are going to be talking about ADHD and community, or ADHD and finding community, the importance of community. I've been looking into this, and a lot of things I find are things in regards to community and support groups, which we will get to that at the end of this video. But I just wanted to talk about kind of the struggles or the challenges or just the nuances that go with ADHD and participating in any community. And when I say community, it can be a broad topic. It could be your apartment building, your neighborhood, your job, your community center. It could be your gym. It could be a meetup group that you're a part of, or if you play bridge or bingo or Dungeons and Dragons, or if you, like me, go to church frequently. Just anything, you name it, a sports team, just anywhere that you find yourself going to find community and interaction and social engagement, community at large. And having ADHD, obviously, that'll affect the way you interact with other people, and it'll affect your experience, especially if you are undiagnosed. Obviously, if you don't know you have ADHD, how are you going to know how to find the help or to get the tools that you need to go into certain situations? I feel like, reflecting back on my life pre-ADHD diagnosis, I feel like ADHD had a big part to play in just the way certain things kind of panned out over time. Certain communities I was a part of, or the way I interacted with school and high school and college and things of that nature. I feel like I definitely would have gone into certain situations differently having known I had ADHD, or concluded certain situations differently having known I had ADHD, because I feel like I would have understood myself a little better and understood my part to play in certain situations. Being a part of a community is just grounds for social interaction. Obviously, if you've seen any of my videos, it's just teeming with social awkwardness when you have ADHD, especially if you don't know if you have it, but still, if you have it, you can just be definitely socially awkward, especially those early days when you're joining a new community or a new team or a new school or a new class or new whatever. That first day of interacting with people and talking about yourself and not knowing what to say when it's finally your turn to speak, and you come off a certain way, and then you're beating yourself up the whole time, and then you don't want to go back because you're having anxiety. And being a part of a community, a lot of times there's an expectation, I guess, on what you're part of that community to do or to find or to seek or to enjoy. There's always going to be rules and instructions and just nomenclature and ways of interacting in the tone of certain circles and in social communities. And so to try to learn those and figure them out is challenging in and of itself, especially if you're going in full of anxiety and stress and that new feeling and not having anybody understand you or in your corner. I think that's why I've quit a lot of things, is because I go in having certain expectations, having a quixotic idea of how things are gonna be, just like very visions of grandeur, that it's gonna be the answer to all of my problems. It's gonna go really well. I'm gonna be top tier participant, perfectionist to the max. I realize I've jumped in head first, or I've signed up for too much. I volunteered for too much, and I realize this is not exactly what I wanted or what I thought it was going to be. We disappoint others, and then we disappoint ourselves, and we feel shame, and we feel like we don't want to go back to the certain community. It's embarrassing. And to do that over and over and over and over and over sets yourself up to have more and more and more and more shame and more fear and more anxiety going into new environments and new situations. So how do you dig yourself out of the hole you've put yourself into when community is so important to thrive as a human being? I'm in a crossroads because I am part of an amazing church. The teaching, in my mind, is worth it. I really, really like it, and I like what I get out of it. But I've noticed that I have a lot of social anxiety going into that church based on my own mishaps and mistakes that I did and my part to play, and that my own perceived disappointments in other people. And all of this obviously has to do with expectations. But a lot of this can be better with self-awareness, which goes in hand with learning about yourself, learning about your ADHD, and what you can do to improve your life. So you're not constantly plagued with that feeling of the inability to measure up to others and your own expectations. And then also having to bump into certain people that you're not really looking forward to seeing, or you don't know what to say because you know you've disappointed them or you've disappointed yourself. And it's just like that uncomfortable crawling feeling. And it's so easy to just quit, which is something us ADHDers are really good at. At least I can speak for myself that I am really good at quitting when things get hard. And I quit based on that internal feeling of shame that I am bad. Shame is this feeling of just you are wrong. And I feel like a lot of failures in communities cause that. So how do you deal with the anxieties of community? And when is it worth it to continue to fight to stick into an environment? I was recently reflecting on just some recent things that have happened in my life and whether or not I should stick around in certain environments, and also certain environments I don't have the choice to leave, which is my job, which is not my favorite place to be, which can cause me anxiety sometimes. Sharing a little bit of personal things about my life, there are times and instances and situations in my life where I quit, dropped out, or ran from certain environments, cultures, and communities. The environment wasn't what I needed and wasn't my expectation, but I feel like looking back in hindsight, a lot of it was self-perpetuating, and it was me not knowing I had ADHD, my ADHD symptoms accumulating on top of one another, causing a lot of awkward situations, a lot of quitting, a lot of disappointing others, and a lot of disappointing myself, which was basically grounds for a tornado. And I feel like it's, of course, no wonder I failed and quit and disappointed a lot of situations in my past. With that said, I got diagnosed about 1.5 years ago, and I am a part of a community at my church that I really, 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 really love. But I've had some really, 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 really difficult, trying moments in that church. And it got me to thinking, when is something worth staying for? And for me, I feel like it would be so easy to quit or to run, but the teaching is so much more beneficial to my life that I feel like it's worth it to figure out myself and to stay. And ironically, a message that they had been preaching on, which was a quote of an author, it had nothing to do with the Bible, so stick with me. I know that some of you aren't religious, but it was just the story of somebody that kept walking down a certain road and falling in a certain hole over and over and over and over and over. And eventually they decided at one point to go around the hole, to the point where at one point they took a different road completely, to where they weren't even presented with that hole. I feel like that is my life, and that has been my legacy of quitting things and my legacy of failures in community. And going into this situation, I realized that this church brings so much goodness to my life because the challenge of self-growth is so potent that I feel like leaving, I won't learn the lesson and I will just fall down the hole again, if that makes sense. So obviously there are going to be challenges no matter what environment you find yourself in, no matter what community you're a part of. That goes without saying. If there are communities that you can take yourself out of, I definitely recommend thinking about it before just quitting. And I'm only saying that from experience because I feel like for me, myself, I have a lot of things that I've quit and it's not something that I'm proud of, which before you even join a community, think about why you're even joining it. Weigh the pros and cons, basically is what I'm saying. Why are you participating in any situation or environment? So with that said, there are certain ways to deal with being a part of a community. Number one, I say, always, first things first, know your worth, know your value. Learn to appreciate you for who you are. You are the only you that will ever exist on planet Earth. You rock. You are amazing. Once you figure out your own self-worth, learn to understand yourself, have some self-awareness, especially learning more about ADHD if you have ADHD. If you don't, still learn about yourself, but find your people. Find the people that are in your corner that will always have your back no matter what. For me, with my job, there are those people that when I show up at work, and I'm sure you can relate, it is like, oh my gosh, thank God you're here. You just know who's got your back. With that said, learn your limitations. use the word no when needed. Learn your limitations, know how to use your boundaries, and make sure you're not saying yes to everything just because it sounds fun in the moment. Take time to pause before you proceed and really think about, is this something that's going to benefit my life, or am I just doing it because I'm spontaneous and it sounds fun and it sounds exciting? Really contemplate what you are setting yourself up for. Take time. We are such rash, quick decision makers that when you are self-aware of that, it's okay to say, can I get back to you on that? Whether it's volunteering for a position at a meetup group or at a networking group or at church or at, I don't even know, your Dungeons and Dragons squad, which I have played that, so I'm not dissing anybody that plays Dungeons and Dragons. Make sure you really contemplate before you do anything in any community that you're in. Set yourself up for success. Give yourself time to decide on what you should or shouldn't do. After that, learn to accept others. You've accepted yourself for who you are. Learn to accept others for where they're at. Change your expectations and realize that people are doing their best. They're doing their best with what they've been equipped with in life, and they're not gonna always do for you what you expect them to do for you. So when your expectations are changed and you accept others for where they're at in hopes that they would do the same for you, which they might not, which is accepting others, you learn to just appreciate people for who they are and the lessons they teach you, and not so much always hoping to gain from people, but hoping to just understand. If you live a life seeking to understand with open arms, then you will definitely serve yourself and your community a lot better, because you're not going in with this like, I'm gonna do for you only if you do for me, but just here's something. Here is a kind word, here is a kind favor, a kind gesture with no expectation back. That is the most freeing thing you can do, is to serve others without expectation in return. After that, moving on, one thing I want to say for myself is, if you find yourself in an environment that is difficult to participate in, go in mentally geared up and go in expecting for yourself, what can you learn from it? How can I add? How can I benefit the situation, instead of always being negative? At my work right now, there are a few people that need that job. And for whatever reason, they always come up to me and vent to me about how much they hate it and how much they want to quit. Now, it's not always easy. I don't always want to be there, and I definitely would like to quit one day. But for people to constantly go on about the negative aspects of anything, it makes it so hard, and it drags the whole ship down. So before you go into any environment, whether it is you're scared, have anxiety, or just hate it, what can you do to add to the environment, or what can you do to make it easier for yourself? Go in mentally prepped up, revved up, self-loved up, and meditated up, and prayed up, and go in bringing love and a kind heart to people. And I feel like it would serve the world so much more for yourself and for other people. And my last thought to all of this is, and this is going to be contradictory, and that's okay. If you are in an environment that you need to leave because it's toxic and it's not serving you and you're not benefiting it and there's no good coming from it, there is a time to leave. Think the situation through, and if you need to, bow out gracefully. So make sure that you leave an environment where you're not gonna do like what I did and run into somebody later and have to have an awkward encounter that's uncomfortable for both parties. With all that said, in terms of having ADHD, there will always be your peeps online. That is where I have found the most people that just get me, and that I feel like they're just reading my thoughts. Like there is just like a kindred, oh my gosh, yes to it all. Go to Instagram, go to Facebook groups, find an online forum, find a support group in my comment section below, start a dialogue, and let's talk about our struggles with finding community in the world at large with people that might not always get it. Now, this is my take on ADHD and community, the ramblings of a girl with ADHD. I really hope that you got something out of it. Again, let me know in the comment section below. I always love hearing from you. I try to get back to you as soon as possible, but you add so much to the conversation, so much to my life, so much insight, and I so appreciate everything all of you had to say. If you like this video, let me know by giving it one big thumbs up, and please share with anybody you think might get something out of this. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and click that gray bell to be notified the moment I upload another video every Wednesday and Sunday. And you all know by now that you are in my prayers, and I will see you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.